the Florida Writer Podcast, a discussion about writing and other things.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Alison Nissen. And today I am lucky enough to be with Steve Gavatorta. Steve, could you give us a 60-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you write?
Sure. Well, to start off, I'm actually by trade a consultant, speaker, and coach. I basically work with clients to uncover respective business or individual needs, and I work with them either in a group or individually to help them accomplish their goals. It also happens to be I've published 2 books, and hopefully we'll be publishing a third real soon. My first book, which was published about 12 years ago, was called The Reach Out Approach, a communication process for initiating, developing, and leveraging mutually rewarding relationships. And my second book out, which I'm really most proud of, was published about 4 years ago. It's called In Defense of Adversity, Turning Your Toughest Challenges into Your Greatest Success. So in many ways, my main thrust of my business is consulting, but I also write some books. I do a lot of articles for publications. I do blogs and things of that nature as well, too, to help get my message out and help people accomplish their goals.
Well, I know writers, we always struggle with our goals. So give me a tip. Give me personally, I need a tip because I've got a work in progress that is, let's call it 90%. And then it just needs to go to the editor. And I am having the heck of a time trying to get to that 100%. Give me some advice.
Yeah, you might be talking to the wrong person. That's the exact same thing I struggle with. No, it's being patient, enjoying the process. 2 things I talk about for people publishing a book. Number one, make sure the topic is something you are passionate about and you don't mind going through the process of writing. And then the second part of that is make sure you have a format laid out, a logical flow of what the objective of the book is going to be, and how the chapters will flow and what will fall within each chapter. And I think you just let that, once you have those foundational elements down, you let the process play out, get it to the editors, play with it, and be patient with it. It's no harder than that, in my opinion. That's one of the things I struggle with. I think I'm an okay writer getting things down on paper, but I need someone else to look at it, tweak it, make it sing, make it more impactful, things of that nature. So getting it off to the editor, trusting them, and just going through that process till you get it right. Don't give it the thumbs up till it's what you want, what you're looking for.
That is very good points. All very great points. Writers are entrepreneurs. So you work a lot with entrepreneurs in that space, trying to help people win at sales, win with their management style. And, a lot of writers are both somebody else during the day because most people can't support themselves as a writer. Right. But then as a writer, they have their own business. And so how do you actually work so that you as a writer can manage your business like a business and not be so married to the idea of your creativity?
Right. And it goes back to the first 2 things I mentioned. Make sure your topic's something you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, it's going to flow much easier. I'm not going to say it is easy. It's going to flow much easier. And then having that structure laid out. What's the objective? What do each of the chapters look like? And have that foundation laid so when you're ready to go start writing, it's easier. You're organized. You know what you want to say. So those little tidbits of time that you do have away from your daily job, you can help that be as productive as possible. If I'm not passionate about it, I'm not going to want to get up and work on it, especially at night or during those downtimes away from your normal job. And if you have that structure laid out, it's all organized. So being passionate about it, being organized is going to help you be more productive in those time slots where you can spend time against your book. most of my books are in many ways business oriented. They're one-on-one. What I am writing about will apply to my work. So pulling time away from me isn't as difficult. I always allocate some time that I want to spend writing the book, and I'm pretty dedicated to that. And again, being passionate about that topic, knowing what you want to write, knowing what the content and flow looks like will help it go faster. My second book, In Defense of Adversity, originally started out more based on the background. We can talk about this later, more as a biography or a historical viewpoint of a certain town in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was interested in the topic. It was a powerful story, but it wasn't aligned to my business. So I couldn't write it because it wasn't connecting for me. Then when I started finding ways to connect personal development and professional development to that story I've uncovered, then the book started writing itself. I sat on that book for 2 to 3 years. Once I had the answer, the structure laid, I knew what it wanted to look like. I think it took me at most 4 months to write it and get it published. That's how fast, I was able to do that once all the T's were crossed, I's were dotted, everything was laid out. A little long-winded response, but that's kind of my story.
And once it's published, what is your plan? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do multiple. For me, I'm not expecting to be a #1 published author on the best New York Times bestseller list. I want to help it generate business for me. So I do heavy marketing on social media. I will do PR, press releases, and I'll do mass emails to my client base, and then I'll do some YouTube videos to promote it as well too. So majority of that promotion is via YouTube to generate interest, generate excitement, help me potentially generate one-on-one coaching customers. Then I will send those mass emails out to customers as potential new opportunities to work with them or bring in potential new business for me. So my books are really a calling card, a supplement to growing my core business.
I imagine though, authors, even if you're writing fiction, and I write nonfiction, but if you're writing fiction, it's still a calling card. Like you create similar characters in similar spaces. There's people that do multiple genres, but once you find that niche, then you're able to really focus in on it and find the audience that's also passionate about that niche. And then you can really market to them. But I love the idea of this multi-prong approach where you do some emails and you do YouTube and you do speaking arrangements. And you have to get out of your shell in order to do that. That's really scary.
Absolutely. And I really, when I consider social media, I do consider podcasts. So I hit podcasts. I promote towards podcasts. I try to get on as many podcasts as possible. I've been on radio multiple times. I've been on TV twice as well, too, for my second book. So I consider, social media, customer base, then anything outside that realm where I can get that extra exposure via media. And podcasts are great. Start your own podcast, be a podcast guest. I think those are great ways to get your message out to more people. Then the podcast itself, save it, promote that out to social media, get that on your YouTube site as well too. And that is the gift that keeps on giving, because you can keep recycling it by resending it out to potentially new people, or take clips of the podcast and use that as promotional items as well too. So those are other biggies. I highly recommend a YouTube site. I think I have between 200 and 300 videos up there on YouTube. I don't have as big as a following as I'd like, but I have plenty of content up there that anytime I can access and forward it out and to new customers, to new people who don't know about me, my business, nor my books. Now it's a good way to speak about my book again. It's a good way, or this workshop I'm doing, that my book supplements the learnings you're going to have from that workshop. So not only am I selling the workshop capabilities, but I'm upselling my books. So that's all passive revenue for me. So that's another benefit of that as well too.
Let's talk about book titles. Do you find that challenging?
Yes. Especially my first one. My first book is called The Reach Out Approach. And I have to be honest, I hate the name. And I have a core workshop, which a lot of this book, The Reach Out Approach, is about. I do a lot around communication skills using a behavioral assessment called DISC. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that. But the prime workshop is called Dynamic Communication. And that was the original title I wanted. And I actually hired an external consultant to give me her insights. And for some reason, she didn't like dynamic communication, didn't think enough people would know what it would mean. And one of the stories in my book I talk about was some guy, it was a metaphor for reaching out. She thought that would be a good book, and I begrudgingly did that. And I have to be honest with you, I don't have as much passion around promoting that book just because the name doesn't match what I talk about. And it was a big mistake and something I regret. I should have gone with my instinct. The second one, In Defense of Adversity, wasn't as bad. That was kind of the original thought that I had, because I wanted to talk about adversity today and how to help people not only face adversity, learn from it and grow from it. And the whole point of In Defense of Adversity is that adversity is something good. People shouldn't be afraid of it. It's when they face adversity, it's an opportunity for people to grow, transform, and evolve. So that portion of it, that book was a little easier. There were some instances where the word grind, through interviews, through insights people were providing me about the book, was a common thread, word that kept coming up. So I was banning around the word grind for a little bit, but I fell back on in defense of adversity. So it's tough. You need to do your homework. You want to be unique. You don't want to be like someone else who has something else out there. And you want to have a title that catches attention, makes people want to read or want to pick up that book as well too. So it's not easy. I struggle with that as well too. And as you heard, my first book, I just unfortunately don't feel as passionate promoting it just because the title. So, and that was my fault. I went against my better judgment.
I find that story so fascinating. I agree with you. There are things in my life that I've done that I should be proud of, but because of a title or because of the image that it would create, I don't talk about it and I don't share. So it just becomes this thing where it's like you just sort of tuck it away instead of embracing the fact that, okay, it's just a word and therefore who cares? But being passionate about the title that you create is important.
Well, number one, being passionate, then I would throw it around to other people too. We'll see what other people think, get that feedback. And the first one, I hired a woman to kind of help me with coming up with that name. And she's had some brilliant books, brilliant ideas. And I love her, wonderful person, but this one didn't fit for me. And I begrudgingly said yes. And it doesn't match my workshops called called Dynamic Communication. So when I'm doing the workshop, then I'm selling a book called Reach Out Approach. It's a disconnect. If the workshop and the book were called In Defense, it would have been a great supplement. It would have been the perfect blend add-on. It's a great book, and I am proud of it. It's just I'm just not as passionate about it as I am the second one because of the title in many ways.
Have you thought about reissuing the book?
I did. I have thought about that. I just hadn't had the time to do that. I've been slammed with my work over the last 10 years or so. I was thinking about during COVID times, because things slowed down a good deal. But at that time, In Defense of Adversity was actually a better topic during COVID. So I was promoting that heavily. We're going through these adverse, uncertain times. There's some great advice on that. So that I kind of rehit on In Defense of Adversity. So, maybe someday I'll come back to that, but I'm actually thinking of, I never said I'd do it again, but a third book. So we'll see what happens. That the focus will be on that more so than repurposing Reach Out Approach.
It becomes addictive once you start writing. You can't really stop.
Well, once I told myself after the first book, I was shocked I ever wrote a first book because I don't consider myself an excellent writer, but I wanted a calling card for my business, and I thought it was important. I spent 20 years in corporate America. and I left corporate America to start my consulting business. And I thought writing a book would be a great way to get my name out. So that was the reason number one. And after that, I said, I'll never do a book again. Then the story that I talked about, the biography of my hometown, that small town story came about, and that piqued an interest and a passion in me. And then everything came together. And after In Defense of Adversity, I said, I'm never writing another book. But recently, something popped in my head to make me excited about writing my third. So never say never.
Well, Steve Gavatorta, how can people learn more? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, just find me on, just Google me. Google Steve Gavatorta, and you can find all my social media sites, my business website, gavatorta.com. You can reach me, steve@gavatorta.com or 813-777-9414. But go do a social media search, a Google search. You'll find my YouTube site, plenty of great videos up there, plenty of other good things you can find. You just do a simple Google search. I'm pretty much I'm out there. So pick and choose what you want to see about me.
Well, Steve, are you ready to switch to our rapid fire questions?
Now I'm nervous. I wasn't nervous before. Now I'm nervous. But yes, absolutely.
Do you like getting snail mail?
Snail mail? I absolutely despise snail mail. The problem is too much snail mail is coming. That's the problem. It's hard to decipher what is and isn't important. So overall, no, I do not.
What's the top item on your grocery shopping list?
Well, I'm going through a hurricane in Florida now, so alcohol, heavy alcohol.
Well, you could probably have a couple limes and lemons along the side.
Yes, I do. I've been there and done it before, and alcohol always seems to answer the problem. So.
East Coast beach or West Coast beach of Florida?
Speech?
No, the beach.
I like it's a tricky question because I love the East Coast for many reasons, such as restaurants and things of that nature. But I do like the West Coast beach. Beach is better. The water's much nicer. The sand's much smoother. So I guess I'll go with the West Coast.
Steve Gavatorta, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. It was fun. Hope it helped.
You have been listening to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Alison Nissen. Alison out. Ooh, we're all done. Steve Gavatorta, owner of the Steve Gavatorta Group, specializes in empowering individuals and organizations in identifying, developing, and exceeding performance goals. Steve has had the privilege of coaching and training thousands of high performers across an array of industries. From small businesses on the move to Fortune 500 companies, Steve collaborates with organizations to build foundations, set goals, and eclipse their high potential. He is a 2-time published author, and his latest book, Defense of Adversity, Turn Your Toughest Challenges into Your Greatest Success, won a Richard Publishing Amazon Bestselling Award in 2018. For more information about Steve, visit him at gavatorta.com. For more information about the Florida Writers Association, visit us at floridawriters.org. Until next time.